Hello, everybody. Hello. Thank you for tuning into Cosmic Metamorphosis. My name is Kat. Let me turn up my volume. Thank you for joining me today, my lovely soul family. I am so sorry. I have not put out a video in about 3 weeks. Had a lot of personal things going on. Just haven't felt like getting on. For the past probably week and a half, 2 weeks, I've had pretty much everybody in this town has had a viral bacterial thing going on with their lymph nodes. So I last weekend after I ate lunch, all of a sudden my ear started feeling really funny, and then my jaw got really tight, and my lymph node right back here swelled up like really big, and I was a little concerned. I put some heat on there and then alternated it with cold, and it went down a little bit. And by the time I got to urgent care, like, of course, the swelling had gone down quite a bit. Um, but basically, the doctor there, they just said, you've got this viral bacterial thing going on. So I've been trying to take care of myself, and you know, I take my daily D3 and my vitamin C, um, and my B12 because I've always been low in B12 throughout my whole life. And then I've been trying to take poke, P-O-K-E, poke root, which is supposed to help with lymphatic issues. And then I got the Mary Ruth's lymphatic support. So I've been putting that in my tea at night, and then I've been taking the, I don't even know how to pronounce it, quercetin, which I think is along the lines of turmeric. I've also been taking turmeric for inflammation. So anyway, I apologize for not getting a video out to you guys. I've missed you. Wow. Hang on a second. I gotta let my kitten out. She's been watching birds in the window. So let me pause just a second. Okay. Okay. So yeah, I had to get my kitten fixed. Um, that was $257, which we didn't really have, but had to do it. Anyway, I was saying, wow, the shit show is getting really bad, isn't it? Oh my God. With the balloons and all the ridiculous things going on, all these train wrecks, and the desperation the dark side has been doing evil things. So it's just incredible. I mean, it was, you wake up one day and you've got 4 or 5 major things going on in the news. And of course, the mainstream media is not reporting any of it. So no one knows what the hell is going on unless you are on some kind of social media. Um, and then today we're going to do Alex Collier's webinar from number 174 from January 13th. So I'm a little behind. They're lasting so long, it takes me forever to get this done. So anyway, I also wanted to let you guys know the other morning I woke up about 6 a.m. because look out my window and I could see the moon. And the moon was literally in the southeast. So the front of my house or my bedroom window faces east. So I look out and I see the moon is out literally in the southeast, and the sun is coming up right in the east. I'm like, I don't think that's supposed to be happening. That's not normal when the moon's like right there and then the sun was right there getting ready to come up. Usually the moon's way over to at least the southwest by that time in the morning. So I just thought that was a little strange. I don't know who else has noticed the changes with the moon. And then I wanted to show you guys, look at this cool ring I got. Can you see that? You probably can't see from the light. It's like a deer head, but the antlers they're like tree branches. And then there's a moonstone in the middle. Isn't that pretty? I love it. I love it. And I got matching earrings to go with it. Um, I saw an episode of Cottage Fairy where she had drawn the deer with the branches for antlers, and I was like, oh my god, that's like the ring I just bought. And they also have pendants, but I got it on eBay if anyone's interested. It's under Extreme Jewels. It's the letter X and then Extreme. They have a lot of really good jewelry on there, and these things come in all different like stones. You can get all different kinds of stones in there. I just got the rainbow moonstones because I just love that stone. Anyway, goodness, okay. It's just been a whirlwind of everything going on, and I feel like I really need spring to come. But apparently in the next couple of days, here where I am in Idaho, it's supposed to get back down to high of 30 during the day, and at night back down to 19 degrees. So just when we thought it was spring, in comes some more winter. Oh, God, I swear. Okay, anyway, let's get into Alex Collier's webinar from January 13th of 2023. It says, hi, everyone. Thank you for being here as always. It's an honor and a privilege. So I want to thank all of you for being here. I want to thank our personnel and Space Force for being here as well. Thank you so much for checking up on us, and hopefully you're watching our back and nothing else. And he laughs. He says, hey, there's a lot going on. As you obviously know, things are definitely starting to move. And the current stat, which I'm going to start with, is a little eclectic, but is absolutely stuff you need to know because it's going to affect us. And I know that the white hats have their hands full at the moment. It's not to say they don't have control, it's just that there's a lot to control. And everyone's doing the very best they can. So what I'm going to do is start with something that's very near and dear to us, and that's the monetary system. And he laughs. He says, okay. He says, there is no more paper Federal Reserve notes being printed. So let's start with that. It says there just aren't any more, okay, being printed. So what's ever in the system is in the system. Now, what's really difficult that actually hasn't come out yet, it's beginning to come out, is the fact that after the election, the fake president took over the Federal Reserve and pulled $2.5 to $2.7 trillion in cash out of the system, out of the banking system in the United States. So now they could do this because it was their money. He says it's a private currency. So they took it back from the banks. Now the banks were like, we're screwed. We can't loan any money because you just took all the liquidity out of the system. So what the Federal Reserve did was they changed the fractionalized banking regulation that said that every bank had to have at least 10% on hand of monies that were loaned out or were in the bank. They had to have at least 10% in the reserve. They changed that and they put it to 0. So none of the banks had to have any reserve. Lovely, huh? Now, where this gets interesting is that most of the big banks, I'm going to say probably the top 7 or 8, were all in different stages of bankruptcy. And the reason for that is derivatives. Now, if you've been banking for a long time here in the United States, we have something called the FDIC, Federal Deposit Incorporation. says, and they're supposed to back up. If a bank closes, they're supposed to guarantee any amount up to $250,000 that you will get back. If there's more than that, then there's no guarantee you'll get it. He said, well, there's some real issues there, Turns out in November of 2022, the FDIC and the SRAC, which is the Systematic Resolution Advisory Committee, had a private conversation. Now, this private conversation was recorded and it's out on the web, and this conversation was about the FDIC. Has not been funded properly, funded by the Democrat-controlled Congress. And instead of being able to guarantee bank accounts up to $250,000, the fact of the matter is they only have 1.5% that they can guarantee, because that's all the money they have, okay? The Democrat Congress has seen to it that Ukraine got a lot of that money. So currently the entire banking system, because they don't have to have the 10% fractionalized reserve on account, the entire banking system roughly has $125 billion in assets, okay? So 1.5% of that is what the FDIC has, and they were talking about in this meeting about making sure the public didn't know. They didn't want the public to know because there'd be a run on the banks. So the discussion went from there to not tell the public, to those existing banks, you have to make sure that you're first when the market collapses. And that was the phrase, when the market collapses. When, not if, when. You want to make sure you're at the top of the line and at the front of the line. No concern whatsoever for the people. Zero. Zilch. Nada. Now, one of the things that also came up in the event that there is a market collapse and the banks start closing, in a bankruptcy court, your savings account and your CDs are at the very last. On an important list, he says the very last two items. Your checking account, however, is up at the top, but not your savings and not your CDs. It says now, there's all kinds of rumors that the quantum financial system has mirrors of all this. I know that they have checking. It says, I don't know, nor have I been able to clarify or get a very hard yes that CDs and savings accounts have been mirrored. It says, and the way that they were talking about it was that your savings and your CD accounts would go away. It says, but again, they don't want you to know any of this. They don't want you to know because this is the old system. All right? Fuck the people. That's their attitude. You know, he says, we make them stinking rich. They've robbed us blind, and their attitude is, who cares about the public? Now, a little bit later here this morning, we're going to talk about seeing the control, and this is going to come up again, so we'll come to that. Now, because the banks didn't have any money to loan, a lot of small businesses went under. A lot of real estate companies, mergers, things of that nature went under. And a lot of hospitals went under. They lost their staff, many of them as well, because the staff refused to get the experimental treatment. Now, what's interesting about this is the entire structure of our Rockefeller medical industry is in full collapse. Now, know that for a fact, he says. It is crumbling and it is in collapse. They have totally sabotaged themselves by doing what they did and the way they did it, being completely dishonest with everyone. What's really interesting is that there are several companies that are controlled by Donald Trump. I'm told that they are buying these closed hospitals and they are going to reopen using new healing modalities. new healing modalities. Okay, so you're going to want to pay attention to the news and to get this kind of information as it comes forward. Obviously, I'm going to be watching it as well, which is why I'm bringing it to your attention. It says Bill Gates, everybody's aware, Bill Gates is buying up farmland as much as he can get his hands on. What's interesting is that this farmland is going into a trust. And what's really disconcerting is that one of the partners in the trust is a Chinese corporation. So that needs to be on the list of companies that are first seized so that this farmland can come back to the American people. He says, you see, this is all deep state, ladies and gentlemen, okay? When we get to seeing the control, it says, I guess he'll explain more. He says, the Starlink system is totally under control of the white hats. The face of Starlink, of course, is Elon Musk. Now, Mr. Musk, as many people have surmised, has been both a black hat and a white hat, and he has had one foot in both camps for a considerable amount of time. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, in that when it's time for reckoning, he chooses wisely, and it appears he has chosen wisely. He is firmly in the white hat camp. They have been testing the system with all kinds of media, communication systems, messages, etc. And apparently Starlink and Musk have been notified that when the time comes, the white hat part of the United States military is going to completely take over Starlink for a period of time. And that will provide broadcasting the EBS system, all the major United States Western media, including covert communications, etc., will all be done at a very specific time. In other words, the system is already in place. All they have to do is make a phone call, and they already have the codes, and they just take over Starlink. Okay? This is the white hats. Now, why is this important? Well, one, we know the EBS is coming. When, who knows? At this point, I've kind of not been following a whole lot of that because I myself, like, I get discouraged a lot and I don't really want to focus on when that comes. Whenever it comes is when it's going to come. Okay. Whenever creator, the universe wants it to happen, it will happen. So I just take it day by day. That's all I can do. Sorry, getting hot. I just take it one day at a time. And I try to work on myself. And just thinking good thoughts each day. So he says there's going to come a day where, as we're seeing the control demolitions of the deep state, the global cabal, and everything associated with it, what a lot of people are not looking at is the fact that they're showing you how you were controlled by showing you the demolition of the deep state and the global cabal. It says, now, if you remember a couple of days ago, the entire FAA computer system shut down. There seems to be some question as to whether or not it was done intentionally or if it was a hack. Now, this next part I'm going to share with you is that I think it was done intentionally because when that system went down, 57 air refuelers were up over the United States, the most ever, and we had virtually every fighter jet that we own was up in the air as well, covering the entire United States. I tend to believe anytime there's a hack. A couple years ago, more than that or whatever, there's been hacks within the hospital system. There's been hacks in the banking system. There's been, just pay attention to where these hacks are, because I believe it is Space Force, White Hats, Alliance. They're getting information from the people. They're getting our information so that they can go in. They're going to find out how much money you have because they're going to give it back to you. When the system crashes, everyone's going to think you're going to lose all your money, but you're not. They're going to match it. Okay. So every time I see these hacks, I'm like, they're hacking the hospital system because they want to know, you know, how ill people are, how much these hospitals have been overcharging people, how they're fraudulently billing you. Okay. I mean, I've been fighting with medical bills too over the past 6, 8 months. It's been crazy. And yeah, fraudulently billing people or their insurance, basically. So they're going to find out all this information. They have it all. They already have it all. So I believe all these hacks are to the benefit of the people. He says, now, there was something going on. If you look at, and MonkeyWorks, he's the military guy or ex-military guy who does all of the like all the planes and the helicopters and all the U.S. military basically action in the air in the world. So he says if you look at MonkeyWorks has this, if you look at the areas where there were no refuelers, you will find them in the Western United States, specifically in that area. That's the north of the Four Corners area. There was an alliance, get this, there was an alliance extraction, not Space Force alliance, meaning not Terrans, and they had to come down themselves to do the extraction. We just simply couldn't do it. So they had to come down and do the extraction themselves. So you might want to look into that. I will have more information on that at a later date when I am able to share that with you, he says. But you're going to want to look into that, okay? I still get emails that nothing's happening, he says, and I'm just like, holy cow. And he laughs. He says, you know, the whole thing with Biden, how it documents, is that really a shock to anybody? He says it really shouldn't be. But what's interesting is that there is so much going on in Ukraine. Don't be surprised if between now and, say, June, that the United States doesn't draw itself from NATO. Don't be surprised if that happens because the whole thing's corrupt, ladies and gentlemen. It's so bad. It's been so bad. And that's why it's so important to see the control, which we're going to cover here in a few minutes. I did see a video where they're protesting in France, and they had the NATO flag and they were cutting it. So yeah, a lot of countries are going to back out of that. So if you're looking at the FDIC meeting from November 2022, it was between the FDIC and the SRAC, which he's bringing this up again, and he's saying, so for those of you who've been looking into silver, in the last 12 weeks, silver has gone up 37% in price. It's about to take a huge leap here real soon because the silver COMEX is completely lying about their inventory. Completely lying about their inventory, he says. And that will come out. Okay, now we're at seeing the control. I apologize for background noise. I have my window open. So you might hear a car. The system that we have in place now for controlling the large populations and for controlling companies actually began when Jehovah began his process of mentoring the Khazarians. He says that's kind of when it really started. And that's where the monetary system went into a completely different direction. In other words, usury was charged, blackmail was usually implemented whenever it could, and perpetual interest on debt was also implemented. Now this began, says this followed through into the Roman Empire. And then when the Roman Empire fell, it was continued by the Church, the Vatican, and then it moved into private banking arenas. And you have to remember that when the Roman Empire fell, the ruling families of the Italian aristocracies, which managed shipping, military, manufacturing, logistical support, everything that Rome needed, the Roman Empire, which at the time spanned most of the world, was provided by these 13 families and subordinate families and other families that were subordinate to those 13 families. So when he's talking about this 13 families, this is not Rockefellers, Rothschilds, the big names that we know. They're the puppets below these 13 families, okay? These 13 families, I had it somewhere. I had a list of the names. I have to see if I can find it. But yeah, these are names we don't know because these are the hidden enemy, the invisible enemies. He says, so they're all spread out. He says that system has been systemic up until roughly 2012. Information had been coming out, but it really couldn't get any traction. With the assassination of John Kennedy, after the signing of Executive Order 111110, or basically 111110, which authorized the state's treasury to print United States currency backed by silver, interest-free. When he was taken down, the Disclosure Project had to go underground for a bit because assassinating a president was a very bold move. And that the deep state way of saying, that was the deep waves, is their way of saying we're not putting up with anything. So he says the white hats had to change their strategies a bit and they had to come at this in a different way, which is what we're seeing now. You know, the alien technology that's being reverse engineered, looking glass, all of that technology has played a role in what we're watching now as the takedown of the control system that has had control over humanity, spiritually, financially, emotionally, energetically, in all ways. It was completely all encompassing, since frankly, they knew what they were doing. Bastards. Right? Now, the way the white hats are taking it down, even I have been guilty of this, saying it should be faster. It could be quicker. Let's get this over with. However, that was a mistake because I now realize that the way they're taking the system down and they're exposing the system the way that they're doing it is allowing us the ability, those of us who are paying attention, the ability to see how the structure was put into place in the first place so that we would recognize it if it were to ever happen again. And when this is all over, we will be able to teach future generations how this system was born, how it came to be, how stealthily it gained control over all of humanity, so that the future generations will know to recognize it so it never happens again. I keep getting these messages. Sorry. Okay. Now, I personally don't know that it's ever going to happen, but again, because our consciousness is rising, however, it is a teaching moment. It is, in fact, a teaching moment. And being a teaching moment, you never let an education like this just slide. You want the citizens to know and you want them to understand this structure. Because, ladies and gentlemen, there is going to be a time where future generations are going to be living a Star Trek reality. Yay! And if you watch Picard, the third season of Picard started last week. Yes, today is 20th. It was started on the 16th. Oh, so it's like with the next generation mixed in. I love it. I love it. I love it. Sorry, I'm a Trekkie. It says, people of Earth. He says, we're going to be going there. They're going to be coming here. There's going to be star travel throughout the galaxy. We're part of that. We're going to be part of that. And as we go and we travel and we meet other nations, star nations, some more advanced, some less advanced, we're going to have to keep an eye and understand that we may go to some worlds for other reasons. That would normally be off limits, and we will see the old structures that we have been living under now. We will see the structure on other planets. Now, the reason I say that is, again, who was Jehovah? He was an extraterrestrial. He was not God, creator of dimensions. No how, no way. He was an extraterrestrial, and he was working for, drum roll please, Enlil of the Anunnaki. And everything the Anunnaki learned, they learned from the Orion system. So you know there's a history here of control and domination. We are just part of the rolling back. We're just part of all of the rolling back and all that control and manipulation. It's important because what we've been through and what we are going through is an extraordinary lesson. It is an extraordinary task to unwind something like this that has been prevalent for thousands and thousands of years. To be able to roll it back in 20 something years, it's extraordinary. And for those of us, even those who aren't awake yet, it says it takes a considerable amount of bravery and courage to withstand the wind, the rain, the hits, the bias, the prejudices, because of everything that we're learning here on this planet, because of everything we're undertaking. Whether we remember our soul contracts or not, has only tempered the strength of our own souls, so that when we move from third into fourth, and you join, for those of you from fourth, when you join your star groups, your soul groups, and you begin to travel with your old soul groups, with your families in fourth density to other star nations, your reputation for going through this will precede you. It will, in fact, precede you. They're going to look at you like, oh my gosh, there's that person that like was Darren on Earth, and they survived that. They went through all that. I don't care. I don't want any of that. I made it. Hey. He says because they're talking. Okay, they're talking. Fourth density knows what's going on here. They all know. The entire galaxy knows what's going on here, and they're talking about us. Because as amazing as Space Force is, as amazing as the White Hats are, as amazing as the Alliance is, ultimately, the keys to our civilization will in fact rest with humanity. It doesn't belong to anybody else. Otherwise, we've traded one system for another. And why would we do that? Why would we go through all of this, which we're still going through, by the way, in order to surrender our sovereignty again to someone else? Makes no sense. And why bother? It says, and for those who go from fourth into fifth, it's the same exact scenario. Your reputations will precede you. And as difficult as it is, and difficult as it's going to get here in the next few weeks, next couple of months, please remember, if you need help, ask for it. Ask for it, he says. You know, that's one of the reasons why the chat is still up, because I understand that you have people of like mind here, and you can talk to them, and you can question with them, and they don't think you're crazy. We've had a few idiots on here, he says, who've been promoting other people and, you know, trashing others, and that's just not going to happen, or I will shut the thing down, okay? So if you guys can police it yourselves and shut these idiots down, then we don't have to do it. And part of that is you taking responsibility for you and your friends, for your collective soul groups, for your like-minded people, taking care of each other, protecting each other, defending each other. If you can do that, then the chat stays free. And so do you, and so do we all. Okay. It says knowledge and wisdom are the path to balance, and they are not in any way bounded by time or space. The truth is always transparent, always. You may not see it at first, but if you really look at it with an open mind, then you will see the truth is always transparent because it's real. It doesn't need any shadows to hide it, ever. Okay? That's why it's always the last thing standing. So you might as well just do that. You might as well just move into the space of wanting to know what the truth is, because it's coming anyway. And the sooner we're on board with that, the sooner we match our vibration and frequency to that. The quicker we evolve, the more we see, and the better off we are in becoming leaders and helping other people that are going to be coming up behind us and to step into leadership and their own self-responsibility. There's a lot of people out there that don't take responsibility for themselves. They don't. They want everybody else to take care of them. And it's really sad. And those people won't make it. They just probably won't make it, or they're going to have a very, very, very hard time. And that's why we're here. That's why those of us at the light, the warriors, we are here to help them. Fourth and fifth density consciousness is all about seeing what's real and what's not. Now, the reality that we've been in, the matrix, for years and years and years, for decades, for hundreds of years, it had absolutely nothing to do with the earth. The attitude was, the paradigm was, it was all about the physicality and about everybody getting power, gaining wealth, no matter what it took. Obviously, not everybody was in that position, but that was pretty much the mindset, and that's what was reflected in future generations. And as those future generations matured and stepped into adulthood, and then stepped into an egotistical power structures, the earth became less and less important. And what happened was humanity began to detach themselves from the earth, from her frequency, which meant we were no longer grounded. We were no longer grounded. And when that happened, people started to go crazy. Have you been feeling the pull to just go back? I know a lot of people, a lot of things I've been reading, and people have been thumbs upping or loving. Like, there's a lot of people out there now that are just really wanting to go back to the old ways of grounding to earth, to living off grid, to like having their own gardens, growing your own food. Sure, we can throw in, I see the Star Trek thing. Like, it's not going to be, I feel this mixture of, we're going back to the old ways and doing things more holistically, and being one with the earth again and all the creatures on it. But there's going to be some technology that's going to help us, so it's not as hard. That's how I see it. Anyway, he says, I mean, crazy. He says, and the ego grew and grew and grew, and as the ego grew, one lost perspective that they were actually a spiritual being. There is a lot of that right now. However, more and more people are beginning to pay attention to this. They realize that they've done the matrix system. They've played the rules by what the matrix said, and here they are, and they're absolutely not happy. Not happy. We're tired of being slaves, right? We're tired of it. I'm done. I've been done. I'm so done. He says, because it has nothing to do with the material. It never did. It all has to do with living with oneself and living with each other in a good way, in an honorable way. It's not about gathering materialism. It's just not. I'm not saying that it's bad, but it says you have to have perspective. You have to have perspective. 99% of the world's wealth is in the hands of the 1% of the population. And they're obviously not happy because they want to get rid of 90% of the population now. There's nothing left for them to steal from us, you see. So now we're no longer of any use to them. So they did the program, they did the treatment, they've done many things that you're about to find out in order to weaken, dismember, and then take out humanity to set everybody up for the fall. Everything that we see going on right now, all of it, these dismantling of the deep state, exposing the traitors, says they're not just traitors to their countries, they're traitors to humanity. Because the same people that you're learning about that have committed sedition, that have committed treason to their countries, they have also committed treason against humanity. You're going to find out that 90+% of them are directly involved in what's happening with the children, teens. He says off-world trafficking, adrenochrome. He says, yes, I said it out loud. You're going to find out they're the same people. Oh, speaking of that, I started watching the TV series Fringe. If any of you haven't watched Fringe, it's kind of like I loved X-Files. I was a big X-File fan too. Fringe is done by J.J. Abrams. This was, I think, the first season started around 2008. But they had an episode in the first season about the achrome stuff. Yeah. And this guy was, I don't know if he was a clone or what, but he was aging and he would kidnap women and like do dental procedures and go up into their brain and take that stuff so he could stay young. Yeah. So that's in Fringe season 1. And then they also did, and a lot of that season is what's going on right now. So it's very interesting. I'm going to go back and watch all the seasons. So yeah, he says they took the Matrix program to the extreme. They have detached themselves from humanity. So humanity, for a period of time, detached itself from the earth. And now this elite group of powers they went so far as to detach themselves from humanity. Now, that's really something you need to ponder. We all do. We all need to ponder this because it has brought us to the brink. It brought humanity to the brink of extinction, and we cannot ever, ever, ever allow something like this to happen again. We have a responsibility. We have an obligation to make sure that future generations know everything about this time. Everything. We don't fucking hide anything. He says it's all got to come out and all the cards have got to be laid on the table. Humanity has to know, and all this stuff that you're hearing now, all this information that's coming out is setting you up for the next batch of disclosure, which will be the true history of humanity. And it's all going to be the fact that we're not alone. We've never been alone. Now, the part of knowing humanity's true history is going to be shocking to most people because of everything it's going to entail. And it's going to entail the fact that extraterrestrial civilizations have been coming and going from Earth for quite some time. Some of them still live inside the Earth. Some live inside the hollow Earth. Some live in bases at the bottom of our oceans. Watch The Abyss. That's an excellent movie. Some are living on moons and planets in our solar system. They have been here for quite some time. Some neutral, some benevolent, and some bitches. It says very, very regressive. It says now, these are all going to be shocking things because it's going to force humanity to change its perspective on who it thinks it was. And we're going to have to rebuild ourselves together as a humanity, um, so that we know who we are in order to go forward. I've got a cat scratching at my door. I see you. I see your pawpaw. There are Egyptian hieroglyphs of a stargate and all these different creatures on this ramp coming and going through this stargate. So when I saw that, I knew. I was like, I was right. I was right. I've been right my whole life. They've been here coming and going for thousands of years. Okay. So he says we have to clearly define who we are and where we want to go. That's our responsibility as forefathers and foremothers, as elders. And this is going to involve all the generations that are present right now. Everybody's part of the discussion. Everybody has to be on the same page. And then they're going to tell us what's been happening to the children. So he's saying we have to unify basically before they're going to tell us what's been happening. They have to give us this in slices because the way this information is being exposed to us is basically the reversed process of what the deep state and the Cabal did to set us up for extermination. You see? We're just reversing their own process and using their system against them now. The way they would set us up with a catastrophe, with a terrorist attack, with climate change, with a global pandemic, trying to scare the shit out of everybody so that you would relinquish your self-responsibility and your sovereignty to the quote unquote experts, those in the know, those who got on the television and spoke very confidently about what they knew to be true, which turned out to be all fucking bullshit, okay? It was all a lie. It was a trick. It was to trick us to surrender so that we would set ourselves up for this after this after this. For starvation, starvation, starvation. No heat, no power, etc., etc., etc. Till we wanted to die because it was hell. Because Earth would become hell. That's their plan. That was their plan. Okay? Have no mistake about that. That was and is their plan. What are we seeing everywhere? These people dressed as demons, the Grammy performance, and the Super Bowl, Superb Owl Bowl, all these satanic things. Okay, it's right in front of us. They throw it right at us, and they think we're too stupid to realize that. So don't support it. So now we're using the exact same system they implemented against them. We're unraveling it. It's going backwards and it's peeling the layers because each layer you're beginning to see, or you're seeing exactly what they did, how they set us up for it. Okay. This is a galactic history course that you're living in real time. And he laughs and he says, it's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal when you understand what it is that you're seeing. And by seeing this, they cannot do this ever again to anybody on this planet. As long as we share what we know, in the end, when it gets to that point, we have to make sure everybody knows. Everybody on this planet, meticulous records are kept. Everybody knows what happened. This is really a really big deal, folks. He says, and then this next piece of information I had to look up because this was actually from January of 2022. So over a year ago, said state of Washington is proposing a bill, and the bill is WAC 246-100-040. This bill is proposing to change to COVID mandatory experimental to a mandatory and they are wanting to create a strike force that will go to unvaxxed families and put them in internment camps for all children 5 years old and older, and make them force them to take the, close my window. Kids are out of school today. It's President's Day. Okay, so that was last year. I'm not sure it passed. I know Idaho has just introduced a bill saying that they were going to make it illegal for, I think, basically anybody who gives that or any kind of flu shot. So we'll see. We will see. It says now, California, he says, your doctors can't even tell you the truth about the treatment. It's against the law for him or her to talk to you honestly about the treatment. Now, there's some of that, well, that will say, well, I thought the white hats were in charge. Well, they are in charge, but here's the question. What are you going to do about it if you live in California? What are you going to do about it if you live in Washington State? Why would you? The citizens, excuse me, my goodness, the citizens let something like that, would the citizens let something like that get that far? Why would you tolerate any behavior like this where they tell you to go fuck yourself? Why? It says we're the ones in charge, when in fact, oh, he was saying, they're saying that they're in charge, basically. That's what they're saying. We're the ones in charge. You're going to do this. And he says, no. He says, when in fact, you people, it's the people are in charge. And I think that's why, and I keep saying, I swear, and I heard it somewhere else the other day, yesterday, in fact, and I can't remember who though. And everybody's like, why hasn't anything happened? Why isn't the EBS? Why don't I? You know what? Because we're gonna get, I don't know. People have been talking about these trials happening in June. I'm not sure that's gonna happen, actually, at this point. I'm kind of feeling like it's gonna get really bad. Like it's gonna get bad. People are good, lots of people are gonna lose their jobs. I'm just thinking it's gonna go for another year. That's what I don't know. I could be wrong, but now I'm feeling this out of seeing everything that's happening. I feel like this crap is just gonna, they're waiting, and they're waiting for the people. They're waiting for the American people to be like those people in Europe, those people in South America. They want Americans to be on that verge of losing everything. Okay. That is when people don't have jobs and they have nothing better to do, they're going to get out in the street and they're going to protest everywhere. Okay. That's what they're waiting on. I'm telling you, that's what they're waiting on. It's us. It's us. It's us. So if you're sitting here going, oh my God, how come nothing's happening? It's us. They're waiting for us, okay, to take over our own country because we're responsible. We're in charge, not the military, not the government. And I think that's why this government, this fake government that we see, hasn't been doing shit. Okay? They haven't been doing anything. You know why? Because obviously we can live without the government, right? We've made it 3 years without any kind of fucking government, anybody saying shit, doing shit. It's up to the people to stand up. It's up to us. Okay? We, the people. He says, but by apathy and abdicating citizen leadership, they've run amok. They've become monsters. And now they want to harm you and hurt you. He says, that's the lesson here. That's the lesson here. to unconditionally be responsible for oneself without being coerced by some higher authority. Doesn't get any simpler than that. It just doesn't get any simpler than that. And if you all stand together, they will back down and they will fold like a cheap card table because they got nothing but fear. That's all they've got. That's all they have. And this is an important thing. This is a really, really big deal. This last beast of us taking responsibility, not only for ourselves, but for each other. Because as I have said in previous webinars, when this thing is taken down, and it's coming down, it's like a tall sequoia. It says, right? It's like a tall sequoia that's been cut, and it's beginning to fall. And it's going to take down branches and other things along the way. And God forbid what's on the ground when the tree falls and hits the earth. Now, what does that do? That leaves a space in the forest, a void. Ladies and gentlemen, we are the ones that have to fill the void. We do. Every single one of us has to be a part of these decisions. If you look at the food processing and the crap that they have put in these foods, and the fact that they're using aborted fetal cells in many of the products we use every single day, we can't use those products. We cannot use those products because we're eating our own kind. We're drinking our own kind. And there's a word for that. There's a word for that. It says you pick up almost anything in the grocery store. A bag of chips, crackers, cereal, biologically created ingredients. What the fuck is that? And I did when I was at work. I buy that Campbell's Chunky Soup. I used to. And I read the ingredients and it said bioengineered. And oh my God, I couldn't even eat the rest of it. I threw it away. I threw the other can away. I was like, never again. I won't eat that again. Like, I'm not putting that in my body. And he says, right? What is that? Why would you put that in your body without knowing what it is? He says, you see, they were very, very thorough, the dark side, and systematically trying to do everything they could to poison us and weaken us, to remove us from the equation. This way they could remain in power indefinitely. Indefinitely. Humanity, you are more sacred than you know. More sacred than you know. You have more gifts than you could possibly realize at this given moment. The contributions that we Terrans will make to the galaxy and beyond can never be overstated. When you're looking at the history of the galaxy and you look at the Orion Empire and how big, how powerful, and how long it's lasted, and many other smaller empires that have gone through a period of maturity, many of them corrected themselves. Many of them vanished. They took themselves out. And others created a reign of terror that is a stain to all of the civilizations in the galaxy. When you come to realize that it all fell, that whole power structure fell because they lost the earth. When you come to realize that, you will come to realize the importance of what it is that we're all doing here. Today, this moment, this is bigger than you realize. Much, much bigger than you realize. Not to mention what we're doing for the earth. And her presence would be mourned, or her death, or her lack of presence would be mourned forever. Forever. So we have a responsibility here. And that responsibility, however, starts with you, yourself. Taking responsibility for yourself. Be very clear what your boundaries are. Being especially clear about what it is that you not only want, and that's a continuous process that's going to change day to day to day,
as you continue to move forward. But you should have some goals that you keep in front of you, which motivates you to keep moving through the swamp, through the bullshit, through the insanity of the media, and through the insanity of these morons that want to hurt humanity, that has provided them with so much. And now now that they have it, they hate us. They're crazy people. They're crazy. Says, you might be interested to know that being a moron, he says, insurance companies actually consider that a pre-existing condition. Okay. And he laughs. He says they do. If you're a complete moron, they consider that a pre-existing condition, and they will not pay insurance claims on that. Stop trashing each other, okay? Just stop trashing each other. If you don't agree, move on. If you don't resonate, move on. If you're going to sit there and stir up trouble, now you've become the enemy. Sheri Divband did a wonderful video yesterday, and I'm going to put the link in here for you. And it's basically about what we're going through. And she had a lot of good things to say, and about people bashing each other and how we don't get along and stuff like that. Like, she had a really positive stuff to say, and I encouraged all of you to watch that. He says, and if you're gonna sit there and stir up trouble, now you've become the enemy. Focus on your shit, not somebody else's, especially when you don't know them. Okay, focus on your own shit, because if you're talking shit about other people, that means you're not happy. Because if you were happy, it wouldn't matter, because you would know that in the end, the only thing left standing is going to be the truth. End of story, period. Now, he says there's a lot of crap going on about Danny Henderson. It's all bullshit. These people do not know her. I do know her, and everything that's being said about her is bullshit, a lie, and I think they should sue people. She should sue people for whatever. He says, but she doesn't want to do that. She doesn't want to put her energy into this crap. But you better stop attacking her. She's also been accused of being Elena Danan's handler. Please. I've met Elena. Elena doesn't have a handler. Not in third, not in fourth, and damn sure not in fifth. And it's obvious you don't know her. It's obvious. So you really should shut the fuck up, he says. You really should. Because you're beginning to look like a moron, and that's a pre-existing condition. So knock it off. Knock it off. There's a lot of other things we should be talking about. There's a lot of other things we should be doing. Absolutely. And it's only people that bitch about other people and say lies about other people because, yeah, they themselves pretty much hate themselves and they hate everybody around them. They're just people that can't, if you don't love yourself, what's that saying? If you can't love yourself, you can't love anybody else. It's a perfect saying. So they just trash other people. And that's unfortunate, you know. Before we get to the question and answer, he says, I want to read something. This is from Visayas, June 5th of 1996. It says, please don't confuse our compassion for your races. We love with the love for your planet. Please understand that they are separate with our race. We are neither pleased with your world's riches nor dismayed by its poverty. We come here to assist in the period of sincerity. The clarifying of the original intent of all of us in this Vidya holograph. Because of lineage to your races, we have returned to you. Your world is a place of veiled consciousnesses. In order to be embodied in physicalness, a lower frequency should be assembled in a whole intent. The very distresses, the many anxieties, are the result of conflict with limitless awareness in your races. This is the reason your planet's races cannot attain their own selves. Your desire to possess everything means this also. The reflection of the evolutionary state of your physicality, cause your races not to live comfortably on your own planet. Your present religions cause your races to unify your physical bodies with your abstract egos. You call this progress. We do not. Stop looking to your physicality to bring you enlightenment. Your bodies are the effect of the cause, which is intent, moved by emotion, which in fact creates physicality. And this we know removes the original intent from creation. We are hopeful, I guess, that sincerity will continue to gain momentum. 6596 possess. And then he had another one. I guess this is another one. Fifth density starting over. All of us, regardless of our form and dimensional growth, live in a boundless, mysterious, bordered consciousness, and it does appear that all things seem to evolve and revolve in cycles. Those cycles are periods in which perspectives or emotions are repeated. Some of these cycles occur in time and space as you know them, and some do not. All changes occur and recur within the eternal flow. Now, after the blindness of the last, he says, well, at the time, he says, I was given this, which was in 1995. He says it was 5,725 years. That's changed. He says, you on your Terra are about to regain yourselves. It is and will be such an unprecedented change that it will be, for many, very difficult to grasp your own potentials. It is a turning point on your world, which none of your planet's forefathers were privileged to experience. This drama that we have all created is evolving all selves in a very unique way, and regardless of where one is in conscious reality, we are all participants. We are all experiencing change. For those choosing to remain unaware, they, without realizing, shall be at a loss to know how to interpret the bed shaking. So I stopped. Codes. Oh my goodness, he's shaking the whole bed. Anyway, okay, sorry. Okay, for those choosing to remain unaware, they without realizing shall be at a loss to know how to interpret momentous happenings in our densities. In your times, excuse me, in your times now remember that the reconstruction advances. Deconstruction also increases. In any drama, there are tyrant characters and virtuous ones, and nearly always the virtuous ones are harassed and tormented by the tyrants. The dream or drama ends with the virtuous victorious. This is ordained in the drama taking place in our galaxy. The present changes are, at present, on an unconceivable magnitude. If you Terrans, Watsika, but would be intelligent observers as well as participants, your appreciation in this occurrence will be proportioned to your awareness and capacity to understand. As the light and sound frequency advances and the spirit of self increases, sickness and purification will also. Yes, sickness and purification will also. A lot of people are still saying they don't Like, they see all the spraying. There's still a lot of chemtrails, supposedly chemtrails. I keep saying it's detox. Because you will, yes, people get sick after they spray. You know why? Because it's detoxing your system. You will get sick after because there's so much shit in our bodies. You're gonna feel sick. You're gonna feel horrible. It's like withdrawals. Okay, that's what I say. That's what I feel. Many changes are going to test your strengths until your races experience a tough time of humility. And simply speaking, our members of the council may play a part of onlookers when it comes to scenes of war. Sika, my other dog's down here. She's whining. Do you want outside? But in scenes of sickness, we will have an active role to play, a role in serving humanity is far superior. That to play in scenes of destruction, says the laws of physicality stress that we in time live our lives constructively. We too are at a, I think he said a dawn, but are in a very different place of awareness than you are. What we at present perceive is regarding the new density as it advances towards us. You, the spirit itself, becomes more intense. The release of judgment will increase correspondingly. The purifying frequency of this new density is very strong. Also, according to the laws of physicality, those dressed in physical form that are clouded by and withheld love will find it very difficult to endure the new frequencies. Only those sufficiently cleared may serve as the remainder of their physical journey into fifth density. Some members of my own race may be at a difficulty at this time. Therefore, all must self-endeavor, be prepared spiritually and physically if we are to pass through the scales of frequency to the next, beginning with comparative ease. What, Sika? You go outside? Outside? Let me pause. Sorry. Hello. I got Merlin. Hi, Merlin. Say hi, Merlin. Hi. He likes to step on my computer, so bear with me. Should we open the window again? Come on, guys. Look. Hold on. There you go. Hi, Nori. Merlin. Move. Okay. So sorry. Okay, let's get this. So it says your world religions will refer to this as a judgment. This is not altogether true. It is a clearing of all thought creation forms. It is a starting over, not a judgment. Your planet, Alex, is also on this stage. Those of you who choose to endure are enacting an original performance. The conflict between the polarities is developing in a very complicated manner. There are more negatively charged personalities than positive charged at this moment. Now, this was in 1995. It is not creeds that heal your race, but consciousness and love. Creeds are doctrines and precepts. It says it cannot save your humanity, Alex, since your ancient times. Nearly all religions have had their creeds, some of them well considered and elaborate. We ask you, have you succeeded in perfecting your world with these creeds and precepts? Priests, maybe? I couldn't get what he said on that word. Your holy book is a code of precepts and morals and standards to live by. Religions should teach the miracle of the universe, which cannot be explained by mere logic. We perceive that for your Terran religions to be valid, they should teach all the tangible youths of spirit and self, and the more miracles as your race recalls them, are in evidence, more valid it may be considered. It should not be based on past history or ancient creeds, but only in the present and its ability to heal lives and foster the spreading of wisdom and common sense. That was from Mornay, February 25th of 1995. It says, if you don't know yet, we're in the storm. It says, we're in the storm. They just haven't publicly notified you yet, but we're in the storm. And I know most of you know that. There are many that don't, but they're waking up, and I have every faith that they are going to wake up. At least most, not all. It says not all. It would be great if all could, and maybe they're not humans. Maybe they're clones. I don't know. It says I don't know. There are many clones on this planet, more than there ever should be. That's a topic for another conversation. It says we have allowed the Matrix to create a reality without the Earth and apart from her, and we are now being reminded of the old ways, walking, talking, and living with the Earth. Hi, Lori. Nori likes Nanook a lot. Get up there. Ah, you like Nanook. She tickles his feet. Hi. Hello. He says it's really important to do everything you can, ladies and gentlemen, for our physical bodies to be grounded, to find ground, because the energies are getting so high, the stress is being amped up. Hi, buddy. If you aren't grounded, you're going to burn yourselves out. And you're going to find your mind going into some kind of psychosis because it simply doesn't know what to do with the energy. It simply doesn't. And if you're in that state, then it's very difficult to see the field for what it is. And what I'm talking about is the landscape of our reality that's emerging, our true reality that's emerging, that's being seen by many people for the first time. Because as the matrix collapses, our true reality is right there behind it. Hi. It's been there the whole time. We just couldn't see it because of the matrix, because they convinced us of another reality. So find ways to ground yourself, even if it's just for 15 minutes. And my stray feral kitty outside, I try to go sit with her. I put a throw over my lap, and she crawls into my lap now, and she just drools and drools, and I pet her and I kiss her on her head, and she just loves me back, and that's just the greatest thing. And for me, that's grounding, because she's outside all the time, and so I sit on the porch outside and I love on her, and she loves me back, and I love it. Oh, Nick. Hi, Nick. He says there's many ways to do it. He says, all right, JP, I'm ready for some questions now. So here we get into our questions. First question, I can't help but wonder if the, oh my gosh, I can't read my writing. If the, of atmosphere rivers, if the, something serves of atmospheric rivers that have devastated parts of California have been at least partially amped up by dark or white hats. He says, my own personal take on this is that California is very porous underneath. There are a lot of tunnels, a lot of canyons, and in fact, just off the Pacific coast, there are caves and tunnels that go well into the west of the United States. It has been rumored that Russian submarines have actually gone hundreds of miles underneath the United States. And it was the former head of the Import-Export Bank for John Kennedy who actually made this information available for the public. And that was Dr. Peter Beater, who was murdered, by the way. He says, but he ran the Import-Export Bank for JFK. He talked about this. It could very well be that they are wanting to flush out all those canyons, underground tunnels, specifically in that area, knowing how the water will run. They are wanting to clean all that out. That's my take on it. So that they can't be used anymore, and whatever is there will drown. It'll be gone forever because those tunnels need to be closed, especially those from the Pacific that go underneath into the continental United States. Those tunnels need to be closed, and there will be no hiding there in the future. So I don't know for a fact that's what it is. People hiding in there, but I do believe they want to flush it all out, and there's a reason those storms are hitting one after another. There is a reason for that. I can't say for sure, Dark Hats. It could very well be both are doing it. I don't know. It says, but I do know that that whole area, and including specifically Southern California off the coast of Santa Barbara, from San Diego all the way to Santa Barbara, there are tunnels that go in. Now I got my other cat at the door. Bandit! Under the United States there. In fact, there are some photographs where you can actually see the openings from the ocean. Yeah, there's actually a huge opening off the coast of California. You can search for it on Google. I don't know if they've blanked it out by now, but it's in videos. Do you know if the phenomenon that is called sleep paralysis has anything to do with abductions or physical contacts being made, and for what purpose? He says, I've heard that that's a part of the abduction process, that it has been for many, but he says, I'm not actually talked to anybody about that specifically myself, and I've not had that conversation with other contactees either. I can only speak about my own experience. That's never been an issue for me. In fact, there was a time I was sleeping on Boney Ridge in the Santa Monica Mountains, which is in Malibu, and we used to go up there and camp all the time. And I would take the dogs and go camping up there all the time because I lived up on Decker Canyon at the time in Malibu. So we would go up there, and I would recall there's caves and everything. And I came out of the cave, and I had my sleeping bag, and I just laid out under the stars and fell asleep. And at one point, I woke up, and Mornay was literally sitting right next to me, looking at the stars. And I'm telling you, that's one of my fondest memories. And this may be the first time I've ever said it out loud. He was just standing there looking at the stars from our perspective and looking over the ocean, and he was having a human moment, a Terran moment at that time, and said, Hey. And I said, Hey, when did you get here? And he goes, A while ago. And he said, It's really beautiful. It's really beautiful. So he connected. He totally connected. And that was good because it helped him have more of a perspective for us and the things that we go through and the things that we see and the hurts and also the things that we appreciate. And it was a real bonding moment. It was really special. He says, Wow, I don't know that I've thought about that in 40 years. And he laughs. Next question. Alex, you mentioned returning from visiting with the A's that you were still under the effects of 5D and that you could hear thoughts of others around you. Can that be turned off? And if we are all in 5D, then are all of our own thoughts being shared? That would be very unsettling to me. Will telecommunications be controllable? I like my privacy. And Alex says, my experience in 5D with them is I had no privacy. Not everyone was interested in being in my head, though. I think that's important to note. But those who had an intention to connect with me, I knew it. I knew they were there. I knew that that they had engaged and I was mindful, but that does not mean that I could shield it from them. What I had to learn was to be comfortable with was just being authentic. That's how I had to deal with it. Just be authentic, be who I am, and not worry about what they thought. I don't have a lot of dark thoughts, he says. There are some people's there are some people's asses I'd like to kick, he says, but that's probably about as dark as it gets. So after a while, you just don't worry about it. What you do is you engage with them, you show interest, and you open yourself up to learn from them and experience. And that's where the appreciation came from. That's where the bonding was just opening myself to experiencing them, not shutting myself down and insulating myself because I felt less than. That is never going to work for anybody, ever. He says, I'm on their world, on their ship. I was the guest, so I needed to engage. I know that. So he says, was I embarrassed? A couple of times. He says, whoo, yeah. He says, yeah. Did I withdraw for a period of moments? Yes, because I was embarrassed. But it was interesting. Whenever something like that occurred, what happened is Mornay would come, just put his hand on my back or on my shoulder, and it was, don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it. Uh, he says, and let's just stay in the moment and move forward, is what he would tell him. He says, and ultimately that's what happened. Someone said, even the Andromedan system has to fart, and there's just no way, hundreds and millions of them, nobody passes wind. He says, I can't be the only one there that does that. He laughs and he says, so I can't believe I just said that out loud. I'm probably gonna catch some crap for that, he says. Oh well, it won't be the first time. Next question. What are your thoughts about the saying pray, like Pray equals pray, Prey? Says example, pray, Pray, is praying to something or someone outside of themselves and therefore making one vulnerable to entities of dark intent. And Alex says, okay, I'm going to give you an example that I know is appropriate. I don't know where you live in the world, but here in the United States, we have a group called Jehovah's Witness. It is their belief system that Jehovah was God, the creator of all things. What they absolutely don't get is that he was, in fact, an extraterrestrial. That simply is not part of their consciousness at this point. So when they do their prayer work and they come together as a community to pray to God, who they think they're praying to is not the universe, the generator of dimensions, but it is an extraterrestrial. They are sending their energy, their focus, and intent to an extraterrestrial who is both light and dark. It is my opinion that that energy is wasted. And the Greeks, the ancient stories of the gods of Olympus, they gained strength when humans prayed for them. They became weak when humans ignored them. It's interesting that that's part of the mythology, if you want to call it that. And many videos back, I shared an episode of Merlin that had Martin Short in it and Madge, Queen Mab. Yeah, they at the end, they totally ignored her and turned their backs on her and she disappeared. So I shared that. This is the same. So if you ignore them, it makes them weak. And he says, it's interesting that would be a part of that information of stories, isn't it? I'll let you figure out the rest, he says. Next question. I would like to have more information on the months to come, what to expect, what to look for. And JP says, get out your crystal ball. Alex says, Om, Om. And he laughs. He says, I could give you the pad answer and say a lot of change. And that would be true, but I'm not a psychic and I don't. He says there are things that are obviously coming very close. More disclosure, more proof of government corruption, a change in our entire financial system, at least here in the United States and in the world. The United States is going to go through a period of drastic change. Not that it's negative, because it won't be, but a lot of people have had a hard time with change anyway. So they're just going to have to work their way through it, because on the other side, we're better, stronger, more reliable, and more responsible, not only to each other, but to other countries. In other words, come out of the other side of the changes. America will walk its talk. It hasn't been doing that. A lot of terrible things have been done in our name that we knew nothing about. And all that's going to come to light. And we will be called to apologize for it. And we will apologize for it, even though we knew nothing about it, because it's the right thing to do. And that's what you want. You want to do the right thing. And the more right things you do, the more respect you will regain. And that's just how it is. That's how it is, okay? It says Mexico is asked to join BRICS. I think they're saying right now Saudi Arabia. When that happens, this is very interesting, guys. So listen, he says, when that happens, trade with Mexico will stop, because one of the conditions of joining BRICS is you don't use the US dollar, the Federal Reserve note. You no longer use it. So drug trafficking will probably end. Many immigrants will go home because they can't send their money back to Mexico to help their families. I found that very interesting, and I had never thought of that before. But he's right. It's going to be really interesting, and I'm just hoping we have some real genuine leadership that has integrity to walk us through these challenges that we're going to go through. But it's coming, and it's coming really soon, really, really soon. And there's a lot of things attached to that. That's why it's important to pay attention as an observer and to pay attention to what's going on. Doesn't mean you have to get emotionally attached to it, but you need to be aware of the changes that you not only see currently, but those that are coming. And if you pay attention to the things that are occurring in present time, you will absolutely get a feel for what's coming, okay? It'll be very clear to you because your frequency is rising. And as the observer, you will see the fields. And the higher your frequency gets, more of the field you will see. You will see through the illusion and you will see reality. You will see where it's all going, and that will empower you to be involved and to step into a place of leadership and prepare your loved ones and those around you for what's coming and where we're going. And we need you to do that. We all need you to do that, okay? We have to stop giving our power away. We have to embrace it ourselves. That means I need you in power. I want you in power. And in turn, I would hope you would want me in power so that we can watch each other's back, okay? Next question. Do you have any idea when or what has been going on with the children by the evil ones? If it will reach the public in any way, they will believe it's real. Public in a way they will believe it's real, and how will that be done? And Alex says, okay. Says everything that's being disclosed now about the corruption and who it is all setting the stage for not only ET disclosure, but also to tell us what's been going on with the children. And it will be real. Will it appear to be real? It is real. And that's why they're preparing humanity for this truth, this revelation, because you're going to be shocked. You're going to be stunned. Many people, especially mothers and fathers, are going to be completely overwhelmed. And those who have lost their children, he says, oh my God. He says, how that's going to trigger them is anybody's guess. He says, but humanity needs to know. Humanity needs to know what's been happening here on this planet regarding the children. That's going to be a dark night of the soul for humanity. It is. There's no other way to describe it. It's going to be a dark night of the soul for humanity. But on the other side of it, when we get to the other side of that, we're going to be like, don't you ever go near our fucking children again. Don't you ever use a child again. And we will take care of it ourselves. We will take care of it ourselves. We as a race will make sure the children will remain safe and protected. And that's the way it was supposed to be. It should have always been this way. But we got twisted. We got inside out. And we have to fix it. We have to fix ourselves. Next question. Have the A's given you a clear understanding of the way super interstellar travel is done through portals and wormholes, and some idea about the ones relatively close to Earth? And how do the secret space program fleet get quickly to other planets? Alex says there are many, many modes of travel. I know the Palladians prefer folding space. I know that the A's like to use portals, wormholes. It says now the only knowledge that I have specifically is what I've learned from the A's. From their star system to ours, in third density, it's 250 plus light years. But in reality, when you're going from third density to fifth density, it's closer to 900 million light years because you're jumping dimensions. And the dimensions are much more expansive as you go higher. So it's not apples to apples. When they come here, they use existing portals that they themselves use that are open. For example, when Mornay comes to visit, he will come in a portal that goes back hundreds of thousands of years that they've opened. There's several around the planet. But let's just say this one's over North America. It says it's a small portal, and when they leave it, it closes. But the resonance is still always there, and it's their resonance. In other words, another race cannot use the same portal because it has a resonance specifically to their starships and their consciousness. So when they come in, they will come in and the ship will arrive in that portal. Now it can be this big, can be this big, actually it says this big, or it can be this big, or it could be the size of New Jersey. I guess he started small. It could be this big, or it could be the size of New Jersey. It says it's whatever they want it to be, okay? Because their ships are bigger on the inside. So what they do is they usually come in very small space. It says one, it doesn't make them a target, and two, nobody sees them, okay? Except for those who are supposed to. Need to know basis. But that's what they do. They come in other places on the planet. It's the same thing. There are portals that are specific to them, and they continue to use them. They just don't pop in anywhere, okay, and create portals and holes everywhere. That would be completely irresponsible. So they use the same specific ones over and over and over again. Many of the other star races do exactly the same thing because then there's no leakage, okay? And that's how it was exactly explained to me. There's no energy leakage. The rest of it, I'm not really sure how to explain. It says, but they project themselves. In other words, they know their portal is here in third density, okay? They know the portal's here because it's been here forever, for hundreds of thousands of years, and they're in fifth density. Wherever they are, anywhere in the galaxy in fifth density, and all they have to do is tell their ship and project the position they want to be in, and boom, they're here. It happens just like that. I knew it. I knew it.
all this shit they've been spewing and trying to teach us, it takes 100 million light years, takes forever to get there. Bullshit. I've always known it's instantaneous. It is. Because technology doesn't exist and neither does space, he says. So, yeah, which is interesting. He says technology doesn't, so they use it by their mind. They just, in their intention, of where they focus on where they want to go, and boom, they're there. That's how we're supposed to be. Higher dimensions, right? Because I'm currently in third density and I have trouble wrapping my head around that still. Now, maybe when my third strand is turned on, I'll be like, oh, yeah, I get it now, and then I'll get a job as a history teacher. But until then, there's still things I'm trying to wrap my head around. It doesn't take days, weeks, or hours to get here. It just doesn't. He validated that for me. Anyway, because my higher self is out there somewhere. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your support. Thank you for being here. I hope I've done okay today. Don't buy into the negativity or to the fear. They want that. They want that. Don't give them what they want. Starve the bastards out, okay? Just stay grounded. Appreciate everything that you are or everything that's around you and find things to be grateful for. And you will find your field much lighter and you'll be helping yourself see the field, okay? Have a great weekend. I love you. Take care. Talk to you soon. Okay. So there was some new great information in there too. And I hope all of you enjoyed that. I hope you learned something today. If you like this, hit the like button so more people will get to see it. Spread the information. Share it with your friends, family, whoever you want. Thank you so much for watching my channel. Thank you to all the new subscribers. And I know it's getting tough. It's tough every day for me. I have to tell myself to just step back because I want everything to happen right now. And I'm just, I have to take a deep breath and I go sit outside with the kitty cat, with Bella, and I pet her and I just listen to the birds. And I just love on my furry babies. And they're the best comfort for me. Because there are certain things that are out of our control, right? There's just certain things out of our control. And all you can do is take one day at a time. So thank you so much for watching. I love all of you. I wish I could give all of you a great big hug. Keep being that lighthouse in the darkness and shine your light so that we can wake all these people up in the darkness and to find their way home. Marilyn. And I am getting started on Alex Collier's webinar 175 from January 27th. So I think he took a week off because his computer just broke down. So I donated a little bit of money for his computer as well to him. So hopefully, I'm not sure he was on this past Friday. Today is Monday the 20th. So anyway, again, thank you so much for watching. I love all of you. Hang in there. I tell myself that every day, even when I'm trying to I'm like, oh, what's it gonna happen? But I'm like, we will get there when we're meant to get there. So I love all of you. I love you so much, and we will see you next time. Hang in there.